Hello, my name is Aria Townes, and this is my interviewee, Miss Barbara Fields. Please, Miss Barbara, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Barbara Driggins, as Aria said, and I'm Aria's grandmother and her primary caregiver mom from the time she was 18 months old to the present, the absolute joy of our existence. And we're extremely proud of her. But just a little background about me. I was raised in a place called Bristow, Oklahoma, 40 miles west of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the Black Wall Street was bombed. And of course, it was before my time. I was born in 1949 at home, and I am 72 years young. I attended a segregated school, a Rosenwald Elementary School, and through the fifth grade, and then the desegregated school from fifth grade through high school, graduated, went to Langston University, earned my degree in English, and became a English teacher, and later went on to get a master's in special education, taught special education for a while, and then from special education got another degree in school administration, became a public school counselor, and from there became the director of student services in a Fairfax, Virginia high school, and praise God, retired and am enjoying that life now. I understand this is for Aria's food class. So food was a very integral part of my upbringing, because in Bristow, Oklahoma, there were not a lot of jobs or opportunity for employment for people of color, for Black people in particular. Oklahoma became a state in 1907. Prior to that, it was an Indian nation and home to 5 civilized tribes: Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole. So I grew up in an area where there were white people, African Americans, and Indians. And that was the extent of it in Oklahoma. Food, what about food? My parents raised almost everything that we eat. They had a garden that fed us from year round. In the summertime, the garden, in the springtime, garden was planted, harvested in the summertime. We lived off of it through the fall and winter, and then the process was started again. And my father raised beef cattle. We always had a dairy cow or a couple of dairy cows where they were able to sell milk. We churned butter by hand. They sold the butter, and we had chickens, and the chickens were killed right there on the farm. You take them out, wring their necks, and it was a source of food, source of protein. The fatted calf, my father once a year had the calf. The locker, the meat locker or meat plant, the owners of that plant would come out and literally shoot the fatted calf, and then they would butcher it and the calf would go in the freezer. That was, I would say, probably around 1964, 65. Prior to that, they slaughtered a hog or a sow, as my father called them, and we had a smokehouse. And the meat was actually placed in and smoked, prepared for smoking. And the ham would hang from the ceiling, and we had the bacon and everything.
Was that
However,
a common tradition in Black people, in the Black community, in that time period
um,
where you were from?
if you were fortunate enough to have acreage and have your own animals um, as a source of food, there were in Bristol, town of 10,000. It was, the population was always reported as 10,000, was segregated. You had the white side of town and the black side of town. The white side, the black side of town, if you lived in town, I believe most of those people uh, shopped maybe in the grocery store for their foods. Honestly, growing up, I rarely went to a grocery store. My parents bought flour, sugar, cornmeal, and not a lot more from the grocery store.
Were you raised on
I
a lot of fried foods? And in class, we're talking about the implication of, well, excuse me, the addition of being the fried foods, and now our culture is having sugary snacks as what we have as the culture, deep fried dishes and things like that. Was that a bit?
know when I reflect on the types of food that we ate growing up, honestly, I do not remember having a bologna sandwich, if you will, until I was maybe in the ninth or 10th grade in high school.
Mhm.
When I say my parents raised everything that we ate for breakfast, my mother would, uh, she would say, stir up a mixture of pancakes. You'd have pancakes, or she would make biscuits. Now they would buy syrup. They would buy syrup, and you would have biscuits, and you would pour the syrup over the biscuit. You'd have the homemade butter, and you'd have a couple of biscuits, and the milk that was taken directly from the cow, where my father would milk the cow. My
The
father and my
pasteurization?
no pasteurization.
Okay.
My mother eventually, once all the children went to school, because I have, there are four girls, me, Hazel, Nikki, four girls and two boys, but I have a cousin, or had a cousin, she died a couple of years ago, who was raised like our sister because her mother was a school teacher. And during that time, the Black teachers taught in very small, remote areas, and they lived in what was known as a teacherage. It was a really one room, had an outhouse, and she would live in the teacherage for the 5 days and then come home on the weekend. Well, my cousin lived with us during those times because she couldn't take it, take her daughter to the teacherage with her. So yes, we ate everything. That was breakfast. For lunch during the school year, my mom would make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or some type of, or some other type of sandwich, maybe that from something we'd had left over from dinner. But we didn't eat meat every day. And dinner was when we would come home from school. You could smell it when you got off the school bus, usually. Potato soup, um, but it was hearty potato soup. You'd have potato soup, we had cornbread, we ate beans, lots and lots of vegetables. Um, so it was very healthy in reflection. It was very healthy eating. And once the kitchen was closed, dinner, and we always ate dinner as a family. The exception would be maybe Friday night and Saturdays that we didn't sit down with the table set. Someone always had the job of setting the table, knife, fork, spoon, napkins, glass, plates, the entire thing for dinner. And once dinner was over, there was no snacking. There was no going back for anything. We had apple trees, pear trees, blackberry bush, and plum thicket. My mom made plum jelly. That's the jelly we ate. I don't remember having jelly out of a jar until maybe I was in college, store-bought jelly. And to this day, I still don't eat it. I'm not I don't like it. I prefer the homemade. So
Did you move to Virginia in what year?
moved to Virginia in 1976.
And you stayed in the home that you went to after coming out of college, or excuse me, after getting married?
I graduated from college, I went to teach in Oklahoma City Public Schools. That time, initially lived in an apartment, later bought a house. And that was really my foray into grocery buying at a grocery store. And in hindsight, having to learn how to cook for two people as opposed to, a family of six. And it's also the beginning of a junk food journey. We didn't eat potato chips growing up. We didn't eat Twinkies, or you never had that. You just didn't eat that. You ate what was raised.
So what dishes, not like snacking foods or
Right.
meat, what dishes do you not eat now that you used to eat previously?
I
Like,
find that I've backed away from meat now. Yeah, as much, because I say my taste buds have memory. I remember what pork tasted like, and it doesn't
doesn't
have
taste
the
like that.
same, it doesn't taste like that now. I remember what turkey tastes like. Doesn't taste like that. I remember what chicken tastes like, what beef tastes like. What I have found is that there's a farmer's market. At your farmer's market, when they're saying organically raised or grown, if the food has been raised organically, if it really has been, it even has the same smell and taste of when my parents butchered and raised their food. So I have backed away from meat unless I buy it organically. And really, when I moved away from home and started cooking for myself, it's when I experienced weight gain.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I often say I wish I had paid attention to my mother's canning and jelly preserving and all of that. Uh, Now I have a small garden, but this year it was quite productive. I had okra, I raised okra, cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, and green beans. Totally delicious.
Your childhood compared to my childhood, what do you think are the biggest differences between the two? Generation included, food included, environment, location, all of that.
Bristol's a small town.
Mm.
Like I said, Bristol, Oklahoma, 10,000 people. You were raised in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of the nation's capital. We're maybe 7 to 10 miles. So the opportunity that you experienced of, being raised in the DMV and having the opportunity to culturally, your raising was more extensive because you raised in under the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, the National Zoo, just the Smithsonian, African American history, and now the National Smithsonian African American Museum, the different art galleries, and we try to expose you to those types of things. In addition to that, it's a suburban environment. It's suburban. You experienced organizations such as Jack and Jill, and then since I'm a member of a sorority, the opportunities that you had to attend activities that were sponsored by Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And then your grandfather's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, your opportunities for travel, not only for travel right here in the nation's capital, but I remember in your social studies classes, starting in elementary school, if you were studying about a place, then that was a place that we tried to visit over spring break, whether it was Boston or San Francisco or New York or Paris or London, or we wanted you to experience that live and in person. Whereas in my family, we did not travel physically. However, there was this place called the library. Mm-hmm. And we traveled the world. My sisters and I, every summer, we chose a shelf at the library. And our goal during that summer was to read every book on that shelf. So when I was in the 8th grade, I read Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. People would be horrified, at first, you're 8th grade and you read that book. But we were readers. We were great readers. So that's the travel that we did. Yours was actual physical, but ours, we traveled the world through books. As far as culturally,
yes,
you had, we're very, very proud of our African American heritage. And I think we've always tried to share that with you and make sure that you share that same pride. So that is an important part of grounding us as people, to know who and what we are. And all of our family celebrations centered around food, and they continue to do that.
What is a lesson that you would like our generation to know, or to give a piece of advice to the class of 2022 going forward, moving into adulthood and a lifestyle, career paths, and things of that nature? something that you can take away from your book.
Wow, I have so much that I want you to know. Let me try to synopsize this. The longer I live, the more I believe, realize, and embrace that time spent together, that it's okay maybe if you don't get the laundry done right on time, if you're spending time with your family. That's okay. To play the family games, to talk to one another, to embrace one another, and to learn and know our phenomenal history and culture, and to embrace it. So, especially in this climate, and I've spent more and more time being interested in food and what we eat and the impact on our health. So I've read how to eat, how not to die cookbook, the How Not to Die cookbook, African American vegans. Just food is so important in our culture, and knowing that I have ordered a book about Black farmers, which the name escapes me now, but I'm concerned about our loss of land. We still, the family still owns the land that my parents and where I grew up. And I'm constantly telling my brothers and sisters, we always want to hold on to our land because they're not making any more land. You growing up, I think you were 4 or 5 when your great grandmother passed, and we would go to Oklahoma. You didn't get as many opportunities to go, but there was the Black Rodeo, and you didn't get the opportunity to experience the time where they grew the crops on the land and they harvested them. And so I want you to know that I want you all to know how important it is to control your food source. And the older I've gotten, the more I believe that being able to provide your own food, or at least know the source of it, is critical. Travel. I want you to experience travel, to travel the world. Don't be afraid to go. Be sensible and be safe. But yes, travel. Reach out there, go experience the world. Read. There is nothing like it in the world. It's a great equalizer. It's a great equalizer. It's a great healer. And then the faith and trust in God. Your entire life been raised in the church, as were we. And you are in one of probably the most progressive and powerful churches in this century. So you have a marvelous opportunity there to sit at the feet of a pastor who's forward thinking, but not self-thinking. So that type of thing. Always hold on, and to lift as you climb. You reach where you're going. You get there. Help somebody else. Volunteer. Stay active with your sorority. Don't forget about Jack and Jill, stay active with your church, and trust God.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara Driggins. This was an interview from Aria Townes for my food studies class. Thank you, Ms. Palmer. And that's a wrap.